Welcome to the Art Lady channel. Today we are going to be making these delicious pizzas. We're going to be doing this on a beautiful serving tray. During the course of the lesson, you're going to learn a little bit about fractions. And we're also going to learn about color theory, because this is art class, and that's one of the elements of art. A real important element is going to be color. When making a pizza, the first thing we need to do is get the dough ready. And so we're going to start off by sketching out our crust. To start off, we want to have a guideline, and our guideline is going to be this top line here. So we're just going to jump down a little bit from the very top of our page, and we're just going to put a straight line in the very middle of our page. So side to side, find the top, middle, and jump down. And it's just going to be a straight line. So I'm jumping down a little bit and putting a straight line here. Then we want to determine, now that guideline's determining where the pizza starts. Then we're going to come straight down and determine where the pizza is going to end. So this is my middle. I'm going to draw straight down to the very center of my page. Now we're going to form a large letter C and do a backward C curve on this side. And this will form the pizza that's in a perspective, a certain view. Because when we look straight down at our pizza, a real pizza, it appears to be circular. And when you look on the side view, it looks differently distorted. So that's the line we're going to make right now. We want to leave a little bit of room on this side and a little bit of room on this side. I'm going to find the center of this line, and I'm going to jump over, and I'm just going to give a dot right here or a line right here. That way when I make my curve, it's going to be even on both sides. Then I'm going to do the same on this side. I'm jumping down to the middle, I'm coming over, and I'm going to just put a guideline here. And basically, we're just going to connect the lines to make our giant oval. So watch how I do it first. So if you start here, come slowly down and slightly curved, because you want this to be rounded. So I'm going to do the same on the other side. I'll start here, curving it slowly, slowly, slowly until I meet here. I don't want anything to be angular. So I'm slowly meeting here. I want it to be rounded because the distorted view is a rounded oval. It's not angular. And now I'm going to do the same for here. I'm going to come from here, across, and slowly go up. It's not a drastic curve at all. And then I'm going to do the same for here. Either you can come down and over carefully, or you can do it the opposite way. And I'm visualizing it as I draw it so I don't have a lumpy pizza. So now I have my pizza. And it's actually divided already because of the straight line in half. So that makes two sides, so it's 1/2. So this is 1/2 the pizza, and this is the other half the pizza. And this is how you would draw that in math. Or some people go 1/2. This is a diagonal line, but sometimes it's written 1/2, depending on how you draw your line. But this is the same as this. So that's 1/2 So this is a whole pizza. And then when the line down the middle, 1/2, 1/2. Now, let's add the plate to the pizza. And when you view the plate, the pizza's thick. It has a little bit of a dimension to it. Probably about 1 inch to 3/4 of an inch thick. So when you look at it, side view, you don't see a lot of the plate or the stand, these beautiful fancy pizza stands, on the other side, because the thickness of the pizza is blocking that view. So look at what happens. It comes around and gets slowly a little bit thicker in the front and comes back around. So let's put some of these guidelines in. I'm going to jump down, and if I put my finger here, jump down to basically where your fingernail begins. See where my fingernail begins? Down here in my skin. Jump down, and I'm going to come over, jumping down a little bit over here and measure. And then coming off the edge, it's going to get a little bit narrow. So coming off the edge, I'm just going a little bit on this side and put a measurement a little bit on this side. It slowly appears to get smaller, when in reality it's really the same. So now, the same space. So now I'm just slowly connecting, curve around and around. And then as it comes back, it's just disappearing back here. Almost nothing. And again, this depends on your view, the angle you're seeing. If you're looking at it as a bird's eye view, straight down at your pizza, you're going to see that circle, that perfect circle of a pizza. But now when you turn that perfect circle sideways, it's only, see, here's the perfect circle. You see it as an oval. Now we're going to work on the pizza stand. And this pizza stand, of course, you can design any way you want to. You want it to just be center coming down. So I'm going to find my center line, drop down halfway, and just put a line right here in the very middle. And the pizza stand is going to taper up to the tray. And I have mine angular. You could do it angular, connect it in one line. That's going to be up to you. So you could just come up and connect simple like this. Curve it up and connect. And if you want to add a line, some pattern to it later, you can decorate that later. I'm just going to add another square coming down. And then I want a tapered foot. This is the foot of the stand because you don't want it to tip over. So we go, it's going to be just like you're sliding down a slope. Zoop, curve it down and out, and the same on the other side, down and out. And you can round each corner and then connect it straight. And again, you can add these detail lines to this. You could do this even later. I'm going to just add some detail to here. And I do like to have a few layers in here too. Now I want to decide where my tablecloth is going to begin and end. So yours could be lower, yours could be higher. This is almost a little bit higher than the center. I'm going to just put mine a little bit lower than the center, or this is almost at the center. Now, obviously we don't draw on top of our pizza, we go behind the pizza. And for this, in the United States especially, when you go to Italian restaurants, we often see these checkerboard tablecloths. Just makes it a little bit more elegant. And to do the checkerboard tablecloth, we're going to do, instead of doing it straight up and down, we're just going to do it at a slight diagonal. See how I've done mine? And I'm just going to run it from one side to the other. And I just drag my hand down. And I'm going to skip a space and just drag it down. Try and do your best to keep it as equally spaced as you can without a ruler. I just think it's a more beautiful line. If it has a little wobble to it, it kind of makes it feel like it's the real tablecloth. Sometimes the tablecloth shows a little bit of movement in the check. So I'm just estimating just a little bit bigger than each finger. And I'm doing the diagonal. Again, don't go on top of your pizza tray or pizza. And I'm just doing it at a slight diagonal, and then estimate where it would begin, and then it would come through here, and then I would have one show here. You want these to be lined up in the same kind of angle. And I'm just putting mine in here. Trying to be careful. I'm getting a little fatter here, but that's okay. This one I'll make it, try and get a little bit skinnier as I go back in space. Because this is farther away. This part of the table way back here, so I got it a little bit closer. So now I have a striped tablecloth, and then basically to do the opposite checker pattern, I'm going to come across. And I'm going to do it I'm going to just start from the pizza tray and come across. And then you continue the come across. Now these lines you want to be parallel. So you want them to be equal apart. And if you just focus on coming across, keeping each one parallel, I kind of ignore these lines because sometimes kids get confused when they start looking at so many lines. And this part you take your time because this is the craftsmanship. So take your time. Now, the hardest part is when you're doing this cross section because you want this to line up to this side. So when I turn it in this direction, and now I pick just one to start, I'll just start with this one. I come straight down, go behind, and then continue my straight line. Sometimes kids get this line when it's divided with the tray or the pizza, they want to go crooked. But this should continue straight, like you see here. It's one continuous straight line coming right down. And then you do the same here. Go behind, and then focus on keeping it parallel. And then this, I don't have any over here. So I just continue here parallel, 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 and parallel. Now, if you end up with some that are a little bit bigger, if you want to just give a cross, this may look a little bit better, making them a little bit smaller. Because mine did get quite big over there. So now we got to work on that pizza. So far we have half a pizza. And if you go to a pizzeria shop, they divide it into 8 pieces, I believe. So now let's divide it into 4. So if we have half of a pizza, now we're going to divide it again. If I find the center of my line, so I have top, bottom, I'm going to find the very middle of this line of my pizza. Let's put a straight line. Now, my whole pizza is now divided into what? Fourths. So now I have from the one pizza, here's my one pizza, I now have 4 pieces. So there's 1/4. So now, when I cut my pizza, I'm going to take my roller and cut across, and then I cut across this way again. So now I'm going to cut again each one of these pieces we want equal, because if we're all sharing and there's 8 kids, we want to have it equal. So by cutting this piece and this piece right across, I'll end up with 8 pieces. So let's go ahead and do that. If I come to this side, I'm going to find this curve. And I'm going to go to the very middle here. I'm going to divide this in half. So I'm coming over to this side. I'm coming right in the middle and splicing it in the middle. And I'm going to do the same this way. So take your time and measure, because it's on a curve, so you're halfway. I'm starting to splice here, so as I cut, look, here's equal space, and then I just continue straight down, and I'm cutting straight across here. So now, with those last 2 cuts, I've turned my piece of pizza, one pizza, into 8 slices. So if you have one and I have one and everybody else has one, we each have 1/8 of a pizza. And so that's how you would write 1/8 of a piece. So now what we're going to do is we want to decorate our pizza. You want to erase any of the lines that you have in here from dividing the pizza, and we're going to put the crust in. So I'm going to just do another line that comes through this way and come around the pizza, and as we go back to the second half of the pizza right here, we're going to get a little bit closer, because the crust gets smaller as it gets farther away, because these pizzas are smaller in perspective. So we have a thicker crust on this edge. Let me show you on the one that's already done. And a thinner crust back here. So I just drew in. See how it's thicker here? And these appear to be a little bit smaller in the background, because this is distorted image of a pizza. So we're going to now figure out what we want on our pizza. But let's talk about art first, okay? If I have a pizza, and some of the kids were telling me, oh, my favorite's cheese pizza. Well, on certain restaurants, I love cheese pizza. And I know when I go to school cafe, I like just the cheese. I don't care for their other choices. But if I made just a cheese pizza, how is that going to look on a piece of artwork? This. Imagine if this was just yellowy cheese. The little bit of sauce. It wouldn't be as interesting, would it? If I were to look at it. So when we think of things like that, it's called aesthetically pleasing. So if I made just a plain old pizza that's cheese, it's not going to be as interesting. So let's think about some toppings that might be interesting.
Are you picking them in? Yeah. What's the name? Heather. Yep.
It's not about what you like for your toppings, but it's about what would be the most artistic to put onto your pizza. And let's talk about planning, because if I put every one of these on my pizza, it might be too crazy and complicated. But if I put, say, 2 or 3 toppings on, or maybe 3, 4 at the most, then it's going to be interesting. Also think about color, because we want to think about things that are going to show up the best. So I wouldn't put something that has every topping. I wouldn't do that's all brown. You know, I wouldn't do sausage, mushroom, and beef, because you're just going to end up with lots of little brown blobs. So you want a variety of color. You want a variety of shapes. So not necessarily what your ideal pizza would taste like, but artistically, what combination pizzas would be interesting to look at. So we have all kinds of fun toppings here. We've got your black olives, and those are pretty easy. And this happens to be my favorite, artichokes right here. But do you really think that that's gonna look gorgeous on a pizza? No, I don't think artichokes are as pleasing to the eye as, say, these nice rings of green pepper. That gives me more pop of color. If it was my favorite pizza, I'd pick rosemary, artichoke, and spinach. Mushrooms too. But all kinds of combinations that would look gorgeous. Bacon is actually looking good. If you did the sliced bacon and you got a little bit of that pink. Let's look at some others that look really cool, like your shrimp in the corner. Here's your ground beef. Little onion slices. It's okay, but not as interesting as some of the others here. I love banana peppers on my pizza. I do love spinach. I try and get that on my pizza as much as I can. Spinach or kale. It's got some nice green color. Look at the pineapple. You could even do pineapple in 3D because pineapple's pretty thick. It's a lot thicker than a pepperoni. It's a lot thicker than, say, your slices of green pepper. The basil looks beautiful, and of course the rosemary sprigs look beautiful on your pizza too. It'll give some of that look. But it depends on what you're thinking about, what you want for your pizza. And in the beginning of the pizza here, if you notice, these pieces are bigger than the ones behind because this is in perspective. So in the front here, you're going to draw your shapes a little bit bigger. These are pepperoni here. And I chose the pepperoni because it's got that bright red, yellow, red, orange color. And it has a nice circular shape. And then I did the black olive because it has that neat dark black contrast. And the pepperonis, if you look, my pepperonis as they get farther back are smaller back here. This one's a pepperoni. And the same thing with my mushrooms. My mushrooms got smaller back here. So that's perspective. You want to think about what you're putting on, and now you're going to design your own pizza. And I'm going to leave this on here. If you want to pause, if you're at home, you can pause the video so that you can design your pizza. And then I'm going to show you how we decorated this. And we can basically use any medium for decorating. This was a mixed media. It was crayon and a little bit of marker. And with the crayon, I was able to give the different values to create that realistic pizza crust. I layered my colors. And the marker I chose here to give that bright intense red for that tablecloth. And the stripes on the wallpaper, I did just really hard crayon for a texture. So I did my background in my planning. I did it green with the red tablecloth. Not only is it complementary colors, but also the symbol of Italy is the Italian flag. And that's red, white, and green. So here we have our beautiful Italian pizzeria. Now be sure to stick around because I have a lot of amazing artwork that my students have been making to show you. And we're going to see what they made today. And a special thank you to Luigi's Pizza for the wonderful dough demonstration. Be sure to check out my new recipes on the Art Ladies Home channel. And also, I will be setting up a Patreon account soon. So if you'd like to support this channel and receive special worksheets and things for your students, I would love for you to join my Patreon account.